Hello, let's now begin on our new different solution. And this solution is known as the Housing First policy. What is the Housing First policy? Before we get started, Hey, hello, bro. Listen, bro. I'm recording that right now. What? Bro, I told you to call me when it's an emergency, and you calling me when it's not an emergency. I'm thinking it's an emergency, and you're calling me. What do you mean hyenas are laughing at you? What does that mean that hyenas are laughing at you? That doesn't make sense. Yo, bro, I gotta record this, okay? I'm talking about a very important subject about being housed, and here you are calling me over some hyenas laughing at you or whatever you think. Anyway, talk to you later. Bye. Anyway, let me illustrate this by telling you a story. So, there was a man by the name of John who went to university both for undergraduate study as well as his master's degree. He studied history for his bachelor's degree, and he studied liberal studies for his master's degree. After graduating, John was unable to find a job and soon became unhoused. To numb his suffering, John turned to illicit drugs and alcohol. He basically became an alcoholic. John got a little bit lucky over the years. He found an organization that was willing to find him housing, but this housing had a lot of behavioral restrictions. One being that he could not drink, could not be drunk, and another one that he could not take any illicit drugs. Hence, John was unable to be housed. Why do I tell John's story? Well, this is because the Housing First policy answers the problem that John has. It has an answer to many people who may be unhoused. Rather than require John to have to get rid of his alcohol problem or the problem of his illicit drugs that he takes, Housing First policy requires that housing be found for John regardless. There are no preconditions. There's no forced change of behavior. That's how the policy works. There are many ways to implement the Housing First policy. It depends on a lot of factors and conditions. But here's one I am proposing, which I've read about from other research. What I propose is first, we decouple credit from mortgages, so that those people who are working, the working class, the middle class, low middle class, even high middle class who may not have very good credit, are able to get proper housing. Then it is easier for us to focus on those who really need the housing. And that's what I propose. And this proposal applies to mostly Canada and the United States. There might be other countries that might have quite different circumstances from what is in America and Canada. Additionally, those who are in a situation like John's situation can be rapidly put into temporary housing as we as a society help them find permanent housing. Are there successful cases? Yes. Denmark, Norway, and Finland are successful cases of the housing first policy. I think I've heard about Vienna in Austria, though I'm yet to do a little bit more research on that. Another objection is that this is very expensive. But is it very expensive? Well, let's look at the details. It is actually cheaper to have a house first policy. Let me explain. Basically, there have been studies that have shown that when you have a house first policy where it's been tested, the overall crime rate goes down, and actually it's even cheaper than putting people in shelters. Another objection or question is that it is more, it might be, we might want to achieve that, but there might not be enough housing to house everybody. Okay, in other words, there will be more people than houses available. No, in actual fact, there are more empty houses and empty buildings out there. Have you ever been to New York City or Los Angeles or even San Francisco and seen, especially I've been to New York City, seen the number of empty buildings? In my own city, which is fairly close to New York City, the number of buildings that are empty is ridiculous. And so that saying that there's not enough housing or buildings for people to be housed is not a very good argument, especially in the United States and Canada. Another question that might be asked is, why do we have to give people housing when they're misbehaving? In some cases, maybe even trashing the house or causing so much trouble to their neighbors. Why should we give the unhoused housing without some sort of conditions? Why should John not have to stop taking illicit drugs, at least, in order for him to get housing? The idea of moral hazard is a valid and sound concern. The idea that John should benefit despite the fact that he's not getting rid of drugs without any preconditions. However, first of all, housing is a human right. Okay, housing is a human right. We shouldn't punish people because they're going through an episode of depression or they have some behavioral difficulties. If they commit a crime, the police can get involved. Other than that, everyone should be housed. And the judicial system can get involved if there's any crimes committed. So that is the answer to that question. Should we help people even if they are not doing what they're supposed to do? The answer is yes, absolutely, we should. And because overall it benefits society. It reduces crime overall in so many ways. There's so many studies have shown that if you have a housing first policy and you implement it fully, it actually reduces crime overall for the whole community. That brings an end to this video, and thank you very much. We'll go on to our next topic, our next solution. And so stay tuned for the next one, which should be within 3 days. I'm sorry this video was a little bit late, but thank you for watching, and have a good time, everybody. Goodbye.